Welcome to the Earning Freedom Program. I'm Michael Santos. This is continuation of the Straight A Guide project. Right now, we are continuing to move forward. As I promised, every day I'd be sharing something, some more video or some more content that helps you understand what the Straight A Guide program is all about. Just to recap, what you've learned in the past couple of days is we started off understanding the importance of identifying our values. We spoke about setting very clear goals that will really show our commitment to those values. And that once we've done those prerequisites, we've satisfied those lessons of defining who we are and what success is and setting clear goals that show that, we then move on with the 100% commitment to success. And that's what shows we have the right attitude. But we also have to do more, particularly when we're locked up, when we're living inside of a cell. At least I did. I knew that I had decades to serve in prison. I didn't know how many decades when it all started for me because my judge hadn't imposed my term yet. But I knew I was facing a sentence of life without the possibility of parole. I was locked inside a segregated housing unit. I knew I hated every second of it. I knew I wanted something better, and I knew that I had to see myself as being outside of that cell into something better. That's why this next lesson after attitude is all about having an aspiration. Now, I'll be honest with you. I use these terms, attitude, aspiration, action, accountability, primarily because I wanted to package it in such a way to say it's the Straight A Guide, right? The Straight A Guide is really easy to remember. If you're a father and you have a child, every 3 months, you're going to get a report card and you're going to want that child to bring back straight A's. That indicates you're 100% committed to success. Your child is. Well, I thought it was an easy way to remember how we prepare for success. And it's, you've got to have the right attitude. You also have to have an aspiration. I can tell you that never changes, right? It doesn't matter where we are. We always have to see ourselves as to where we're going. You've I'm sure heard the story about people who give up in life. They retire, and after they retire, if they don't have a plan on what they're going to do with the rest of their life, they kind of wither away and die rather relatively quickly a lot of times because they've lost what they're living for. But people who live vibrant, long lives, healthy lives that feel good about themselves, that can pull themselves out of struggle, those are people who always have a reason. They see themselves as what they want to become. In the literature that I've distributed through these PDF lessons, you read that in my case, I always saw myself as coming back to society and being able to go into any environment, fit right in, do business, and not have anybody judging me or prejudging me simply because I served so much time in prison. In fact, there's a lot of people who come out of prison and they don't want anybody to know that they ever served time in prison. They look at that as a drawback, and they know it is. It's a weakness. It's something that other people will judge you against and hold you back against. And I don't make any, judgment call whatsoever on how people choose to live their lives. In my case, I always wanted to build a career around showing people that regardless of what struggles or challenges they've faced in the past, they can always move forward. And I just simply try and show the strategies that I learned from successful people. And that's always beginning with this solid picture of what success looks like. Stephen Covey, in his mega bestseller book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, one of his habits that he observes successful people embrace is that they always begin with the end in mind. They know exactly what it is they want to become. They don't start off thinking that I'm going to get there tomorrow. They know that at the end, after I've put in all the work, after I've gone through all the challenges, this is what I am going to become. And it's that vision that gives us the strength to overcome the hard parts. Now, if you've read some of my work, you know about my long journey through prison. You know that I served 26 years, but when I was in there, I had all types of opportunities and privileges and benefits that came to me. And they came to me very early on in the journey. And it would be easy to say, hey, that's, you're lucky, right? That happened for you. It's not going to happen for anybody else. And if it only happened to me one time or in one institution, well, that might make sense. But it happened for me regardless of whether I was in the SHU program and getting my way out into a general population of a high security pen, and then getting out from a USP into an FCI medium, and then into an FCI low, and then to a minimum security camp, and then into a halfway house, and then on supervised release. Every step of the way, my journey was influenced by the early decisions that I made in prison. And it was really made because I always had a vision of what success was going to be in my life. And it's happening today. And I could tell you that it's not only this story that applies to me. I can tell you that it happens for so many people with whom I've worked. And I think that you're going to be seeing that same message in everybody that I profile on these other videos, where I'm sitting on my computer and somebody else is on the other side of the computer, like you'll see tomorrow, where I'm interviewing somebody and he's telling the story like I did yesterday with Michael Justice, or with Malik Wade, or with, it doesn't matter who. Every one of these people who became successful after prison, they all share the same message, that their decisions inside positioned them for what they wanted to become. And I'll tell you a story. This is a story that's not about me, it's about my wife. I got married inside of a prison visiting room, and my wife came into my life when I was in about my 15th year of prison, maybe my 16th year. I don't even remember anymore, but it was back in 2002. I came in 1987. And, like a lot of romances begin in prison, it starts with writing letters, and then correspondence goes into phone calls, and then visits, and then you fall in love. And I certainly fell in love with my wife, and she came to visit me. It was on New Year's Day in, I guess it would have been 2003. And it was a moment where we had to decide, what is she going to do with her life when I still have 10 years in prison to serve. At any given time, that the Bureau of Prisons can change your zip code, right? They put you on a bus and then ship you somewhere. And I knew that would be the case with me. I knew that I'd already been in prison for 15 or 16 years. And I'd been transferred from USPs to FCIs to mediums. I got married inside of a low. I was coming close to my 10-year, to within my release date, and your points change and so on. So I didn't know what was going to happen with my life, but I understood the prison system and that at any time it could be disrupted. So I remember telling my wife, you've got to create this pathway to change your life so that whatever happens to me, you can go. If they send me to, Colorado, New Jersey, Florida, Texas, wherever they send me, you can come with me and we can continue building our life, because we were both committed to building this pathway to success. And I remember holding my hand out with number 5, and I said, if you follow this path, in 5 years, your life will be fundamentally different from what it looks like today. 5 years, it'll be fundamentally different. And she embraced the path, and we then set about our strategy, just like I'm suggesting that you set about your strategy. Define success in your life. Set clear goals that will help you get to that success. Embrace that concept with a 100% commitment to success as you defined it. And then see that you can go forward fully, never deviating. And if you do, you know what the aspiration is going to look like. Well, when I tasked my wife with that challenge, I said, let's figure out what's the best thing that we could possibly do. What can we do that we know if they transfer us, you can get a job instantly? And that was a bit of a challenge, because this was back in 2002, 2003. We were just, our country was going to war. The economy was at a struggle. Unemployment rates were pretty high. And she told me, said, well, the one thing that I could do is I could become a nurse. But to become a nurse, I've got to go through all of these, prerequisites before I can even get into nursing school. I have to study biology, chemistry, algebra, all of these complicated courses that were tough for us when we were in junior high and high school, but they're much tougher when you're in your mid-30s. How was she able to get through it? It's because both of us made this 100% commitment to success. Through books that I was writing and work that I was doing in prison, I was able to provide her with some resources and stability. She was then able to focus on going to school and just going through these very tough courses day after day after day. And eventually she got the prerequisites that she needed. She got into nursing school. She became first a certified nurse's aide, then a licensed vocational nurse, then a registered nurse, then a master's degree in nursing. And all of that pathway was following the exact same concept that I'm trying to share with you. It's the exact same pathway of strategies that got me through prison after I listened and learned from masterminds. That's why I want to share this with you. If you embrace this concept and you look 5 years into your future, think, what is going to be different? Because if you can see 5 years into your future and you can define success, then you can start reverse engineering and taking the small incremental steps that are going to take you there. You heard it when we listened to Michael Justice, his story, going through prison, filling the first 10 years, adjusting in the manner that he thought was the right way to adjust. Being a shot caller, adjusting with his hands, getting involved in altercations that just didn't get him anywhere until some mastermind came to him and helped him see that if he doesn't make a change, he's always going to be in prison. Even when he gets out, he's going to be making decisions that bring him back into prison because he's not looking into the future. But once he began looking into the future, he changed his adjustment inside. And by changing his adjustment inside, he was able to begin making better decisions, educating himself. And then finally, he got out of prison after 20 years of being locked inside a high-security penitentiaries. He got out of prison and he took his first job. What was that first job that he described? Going to an ice cream parlor. Minimum wage job, $19,000 a year, which is hardly enough to build a life. But how did he embrace it? Every day with a positive attitude, every day with a commitment to succeed, every day willing to give the best that he could to his organization. And by doing that, he got noticed, and then he goes into another career where he makes 5 times as much money, becomes a manager, becomes responsible for hiring and firing and hitting quotas. And then he launches his own career. Now he's doing millions of dollars a year in revenues. And it's just an extraordinary story that I have seen and heard time and time again. Why? Because when we begin to think about what is the best possible outcome, what can my life be? You can start recognizing, what can I do right now while I'm locked inside of a jail cell? We heard Malik Wade talking about how he prepared himself while he was locked inside of a jail cell. He described locking himself in a closet when he could, just to separate himself from the noise and the distraction of imprisonment and focusing on reading, because that's what Malcolm X taught him how to do. Listen, learn, observe, incorporate this strategy into your life, and you become stronger. You become more successful. And you may not feel the rewards of that success today, but that doesn't mean you're not making progress. It means that you have to have a very strong mind. You've got to fight to keep that mind strong and reject the negativity that surrounds you inside of a prison. You've got to remember, where am I? What am I doing here? What are the motivations of the people around me? How am I going to overcome that? Sometimes when you're inside of that environment, it's easy to feel that you're always the victim, right? That the staff is always against you. But if we can sometimes shift the way we focus and start thinking about, well, what are the dynamics of this environment? Okay? What's really going on here as far as a staff member, right? If I think about a staff member, I think about when I was in prison, at least this is how I got through. I said, well, they don't really, have anything personal against me. They're just doing their job. And doing their job, they're being told what is their primary concern. It's focus on the security of the institution. You hear that time and time again. And we look at that as being, that's just one way of saying you've got nothing coming. Whether it is or whether it isn't, we've got to have a mechanism in our mindset to overcome that. And I can tell you what worked for me was having an aspiration. Always saying, I have got to come out of here successfully. I have got to become successful. And by having that aspiration, I'm able to trump all of these challenges and struggles that I have to go through every day. I don't really care how many obstacles are put in front of me while I'm in prison. Everything's focused on how I'm going to get out of here, how I'm going to become successful, how I'm going to be able to overcome the challenges that derail success for so many people that go through the prison system. If you can see it, if you know that there's going to be struggle, then you can start saying, okay, what can I do differently? I can tell you that when I first got out of prison, like Michael Justice said, I didn't party, I didn't celebrate. I went immediately, got my driver's license, got to work, started executing this plan that I'd put in motion many years before. I just said, okay, now I've just shifted from prison to society. And people were telling me, you got to slow down. You got to decompress. Take some time for yourself. And for some people, that might be the right thing to do. But in my case, I really felt a sense of urgency because I had my aspiration. I told you, I drove out of that prison and I looked across the vehicle my wife was driving me, and I told her, I've got to become successful in here so I can help more people become successful. In order for me to do it, I've got to build assets worth more than $1 million within 5 years. Because if I can do that, if I can build that portfolio of assets, I can show other people how I did it, and I can show other people that if they start making better decisions while they're in prison, they too can overcome all the challenges they're going to face out here. So I didn't have time to go have a drink. I didn't have time to decompress. I still haven't, right? It hasn't quite been 4 years as I'm making this video right now since I've been free, but I'm telling you, I'm building my career. And you're going to see it in the final episode of this 21-day course, the one that's called Authenticity. I'm going to throw some pictures up there that you'll see the cars that I drive. You will see the real estate that I own. You will see the deals that I'm doing. I'll put it up on the screen, not because I'm trying to brag, but because I'm trying to show you that I had a vision. And that vision was my aspiration. It was what I wanted to achieve. It's what I want for you to achieve. But I want you to know, if you want to have that level of success in your life, you got to start making the right decisions in prison. And when I say, I'm not implying that you're not making the right decisions. And I'm not suggesting that it's not extraordinarily difficult when you've got maybe no release date. Okay, when you're serving a life sentence or when you're locked in the shoe. I know how tough it is, but I also know there's only one strategy that really helps you reject that negativity of the struggle you're in today, and that's open up to what it could be. That's what your aspiration is. It's what can it be? What is the best possible outcome? And if that best possible outcome is so far into the future that you can't even see it, like for somebody who has a life sentence perhaps, then you got to take the approach that worked for me. And it's focus on the next 10 years, right? When I walked into the shoe and I was 23 years old, I couldn't contemplate 26 years into the future. I had just had no frame of reference. I hadn't been alive that long. I got locked up, not too long after high school, and thinking of 26 years into the future was just not comprehensible to me. I recently saw a letter, somebody who opted into my site, and he's serving a life sentence. He started when he was 19 years old. He'd been down for more than 20 plus years already. He's still in the USP. And I've got a lot of respect for him because he came out of the ADX and he still kept a positive attitude. He's still focused on how he wants to get out. And for him, success was just getting out of the ADX and getting to a USP. But that did not pull him down. He still had the passion inside to lead a life of productivity and success. And I've got enormous admiration for him because I know the strategy that he's employing. He's saying, hey, I can't see the end game, but I can see the next 10 years. And for me, I could say when I was starting in the USP and I was thinking of 10 years, I was simply saying, okay, in 10 years, I'm going to have a college degree. In 10 years, I'm going to publish something. In 10 years, I'm going to have 10 people in my life 10 people in my life who don't know me today, but they're going to know me in the future and they're going to believe in me. Because I had that aspiration, I could take steps to get there. I can tell you that right now, I've been out of prison now for not quite 4 years, but I'm way ahead of my goal of saying I'd control more than $1 million in assets. I can tell you right now, I got 2.6 million in assets. But I can say, okay, in 5 years, that doesn't stop there. In 5 years, I know, okay, now I got to be on a path for 10 million in assets. Because if I have $10 million in assets that are appreciating and performing and paying for themselves, I know I'm going to create the level of liberty that I can use to help more people achieve success. So you see, for me, it's always about how can I build stronger asset bases that I can use to help more people become successful. So that's what I'm striving to do. I never ask anybody to do anything that I didn't do in prison and that I'm not still doing right now. It's about you defining success in your life, and you do that with your values and your goals, having the right attitude, and having an aspiration of what it is you want to become. And so as I've been doing in the past lessons, I'm going to conclude this lesson with a challenge for each of you. You'll see a question right on the screen at the end of this little presentation here, where I'm going to ask you to say, how would you describe the best possible outcome from your current situation? Now, I want you to, if you want to, like I'm not, this is no requirement, but I want to ask you, invite you, if you want to, right? You've got my email address right there on the side. You can send me an invite when you get access to an email system, or you can have your family do it, or whatever. Just simply write your response to that question. Okay? What's the question? It'll be up there. How would you describe the best possible outcome from your current situation? If you could write that, write it in 500 words, 1,000 words, 10,000 words. I don't care. I'm not going to have the time to read it, but I can tell you what I am going to do. I'm going to copy and paste your answer, and I'm going to plug it into my website that's for jobsandresourcesforfelons.com. And you will have a record of what you said you were going to do. And it's always going to be there on the web. And you can tell people someday when you get out, hey, I had an aspiration of being successful, and this is what I said I was going to do. And you can see my answer. You see I published it, and you will see this is what advances the ball for you. It's being transparent, right? It's saying what you're going to do and then doing it. When you live by that principled, values-based, goal-oriented approach, you can change your life. You can cause more people to believe in you. By causing more people to believe in you, you can start believing in yourself, because no longer are you in prison. Now you're building that ladder. You're climbing your steps up, up, up. And when you get out, you can say, wow, look at what I have done. Just as I told you my wife was able to do. Now she's a professor of nursing. She's my partner in real estate ventures. She's my partner in new ventures that I'm creating. And she's just making things happen. You can do this as well. But it doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't happen by happy talk. You've got to sow your own seeds for success. You do that by defining your values. You do that by defining success. You do that by moving forward toward your goals with a 100% commitment, and always knowing when you get to the other side, what's going to be there? What's going to be my aspiration? That's what you can do. And you'll see it in all of the videos that I do with other people. Every one of them is going to be telling you their story of how they became successful. But I absolutely know that there's always going to have been one pivotal moment where they turned the page. They said, today is the day that I draw my line in the sand and I begin focusing on success. Start focusing on success, and you will change your life as well. So that's it for today. I think I am Michael with michaelsantos.com, Earning Freedom. I guess you guys can access michaelsantos.com or jobsandresourcesforfelons.com or any other websites that I do. But you do have access to this information. You can reject it if you want to. I know that I can't reach everybody. That's why I try and bring more people on here with hopes that somebody is going to connect with you. At the very least, I hope that you see that I'm passionate about trying to share what I'm doing, what worked for me with you, because I really want you to have the best possible outcome when you come out of that system. But I'll be honest with you. If you identify your story, if you articulate your story, and you share it with me, and I publish it on Jobs and Resources for Felons, when I go out and speak in public forums, like I'll be at the University of Colorado in a couple of weeks, I'll be able to highlight it, throw it on a screen, and say, "Look at my man, Big D, who's at USP Atwater, or who's at USP Florence, or who is at USP Tucson," and they say, "Look at what he's saying he's doing." That's the reason we need to bring improvements to our criminal justice system, because people inside need these mechanisms. They've got an aspiration, and it's our job as a society to create policies and procedures that will allow them to reach their goals and reach their highest potential as a fulfilling member of our community. So that's what I wanted to share. I hope that you're with it, and I hope to hear from you. I can't respond to everybody. I can't get anybody out of jail, but I can absolutely do the best that I can to persuade other people why we need to reform the system. But I need your help. I need you to make good decisions in prison. I need you to document the journey, and I'll do my part out here. Thanks so much.